All right, so this is Boo Boo Bennett, and the reason why I'm choosing to cover her today is because I get the feeling that she phrases questions a certain way. I know we haven't done like gun girl content before, so this might be a little bit surprising to you guys, but I feel like when I see the title of this video, Black Voters Support Georgia ID Law, I feel like she's not really talking about the actual racist epithet of that. And if you need to know if voter ID laws are racist, you can easily Google that and you'll find plenty of things. A major study finding that voter ID laws hurt minorities isn't standing up well under scrutiny. Yes, voter ID have little to no. The new the new study suggests voter ID has little impact on minority turnout. Specifically, the voters who have spent as a specifically the researchers they wrote a post spent as 7.1 of ID means lower African Americans turn on the whites. The follow-up study published that took a close look at the data models. The original researchers found big problems. The CCS data that the researchers relied on is notoriously unreliable for a voter ID study and weighing screws results. In 2006, CCES, the estimated turnout rate was 10 points below actual turnout in 15 states, most of which practically showed zero turnout according to CCES. The main studies model didn't control for variables that influenced the results. If the model had successfully controlled for all of the variables besides voter ID, it would have been able to find, for example, that all states without voter ID laws have roughly the same voter turnout. This is not the case. Taken together, these errors indicate that the original study was deeply flawed. Indeed, when the follow-up researchers fixed errors and reran the model, they produced different findings that concluded the effect for whites is positive, but only statistically significant in primaries. The effect for Latinos is sometimes positive, sometimes negative, generally not significant. So after the vote ID laws passed, white turnout remains generally flat and goes up in primaries, while Sparta remains on stand. This can still lead to an overall racial screw, particularly in primaries, perhaps because white voters have an easier time obtaining photo ID, but it's too small of a result to reach any sweeping conclusions. Whatever the ultimate critiques of the follow-up study, generally back the overall research on voter ID laws. Though voter ID laws do limit people's ability to vote in some cases and have historically used to target voters of color, the laws seem to have a tiny effect on current elections. That might be surprising considering all the headlines about voter ID laws in the past few years. Didn't have 9%, but as Nate Cohn explained in a review of the evidence in the New York Times, figures like Pennsylvania are highly misleading. To begin with, the true number of registered voters without photo identification is usually much lower than the statistics on registered voters without identification suggest. The number of voters without photo identification is calculated by blah, 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 blah. Essentially, the number of voters who don't actually have an eligible ID is very inflated by estimates by Pennsylvanians, and assuming that these people will vote in the first place is a big mistake. They're less likely to vote with or without a voter ID law. Still, the laws are very clearly racist intent. None of this research should let the people passing voter restrictions off the hook. Over the past few years, it's become almost a cliche for Republicans to slip up and admit that voter ID laws and other voting restrictions aren't really about combating voter fraud, and extremely rare, but rather about making it harder for Democratic constituents, mainly black and brown voters, to vote. Longtime Republican consultant Carter Wen, a fixture in the North Carolina politics of the GOP's voter fraud argument, nothing more than excuse. Of course, it's political. Why else would you do it? While the GOP lawmakers might have passed the law to suppress some voters, that does not mean it was racist. Look, if African Americans voted overwhelmingly Republican, they would have kept early voting right where it was. It wasn't about discriminating against African Americans. They just ended up in the middle of it because they vote Democrat. This is simply deplorable. It is a direct admission that voting restrictions are politically motivated attempts to disenfranchise black voters. Like, okay, I went through this already, so I'm glad that studies come out that find that the voter ID laws don't hurt minorities, but the voter ID, the conversation on voting restrictions is specifically targeted because people don't like Democrat turnouts. And most black people end up voting Democrat. Like, that's just the numbers, that's just the way it is. So when I see videos like this, it's like, I'm essentially sure you're phrasing this question in a way that makes it obvious, well, duh, it's not racist. Everybody needs an ID. That's not the point. That's why I'm watching this, to see how she's phrasing this, to see if this is making sense.
Is that a no?
I don't know.
Georgia, they just...
All right.
Is voter ID racist? Delta Coke, they're protesting it. They're pulling business out of Georgia because they said requiring an ID to vote is racist. Is it racist?
It's a lot of things in the world that's racist. That's not considered one. And I would know that for a fact.
All right.
So.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that answer. There's a lot of things. Requiring a voter ID is probably not one of them. Do you think it's racist?
That's crazy because she's gone on multiple rants about how America's not a racist country, but like just flat out was like, yeah, there are a lot of things that are racist. Voter ID isn't one of them. Thanks for like, I don't know, admitting that.
Not really.
So it's to require voter
Can I
ID.
see longer answers from these people? Who are you asking? Why are you asking people at the beach? I'm trying to chill and relax. I don't want to talk about racism right now.
To vote. So if you're going to go in and cast a vote in an American election, you have to prove you are who you say you are.
That's not That's not the it's not the antithesis of the question. I hate when people say, "Oh, you need an ID to prove who you are." Like, there are other ways to prove who I am, but not an ID. I hate that, like, you immediately take these two things and you lump them together. Voter ID is required to vote, and the law is to prove who you are. Like, that's not the same thing. And it's funny because we just covered why that's not the same thing.
Then you can vote. Some companies are pulling out. I assume this is where you know what's going on because they're saying that law is racist.
The law isn't racist. The voter ID thing is not the racial part of that. It's the fact that it's lumped in with a bunch of other stuff that makes no sense whatsoever and is clearly meant to deter people from voting. And it happens to be enacted in places where black people vote the most, who vote for Democrats. That's what's making it racist. This is not a hard thing to grasp, guys.
Is it racist to require an ID to vote?
No, I don't think so.
No one would think so. Why are you framing the question like this? Okay, hold on. Hold on, sis with the big glasses.
Think so. If everybody has to do it, I guess if you were singling out one race, it would be different. But if it's, everybody, then I guess it's a requirement for everybody.
That's common sense.
Wait,
I'm racist.
You're racist?
I'm racist? How so?
Aren't you that girl? I was waiting for this one.
Are you a Trump supporter?
Where's the proof that I'm racist?
On your Twitter. Are you
Just proof.
I love black people. I love black people so much. Just go on your Twitter. Facts though.
How so?
Are you a Trump supporter?
Where's the proof that I'm racist?
On your Twitter. Are you
Just proof. If you're gonna call people racist,
Are you a Trump supporter?
Yeah, get that mic away from me.
Chill out. You get the mic away.
Yeah.
you're gonna call people racist. Back it up, dude.
Cause you're coming up to me while I'm on that looked like a nice beach, and just like start like, aren't you the racist girl that was like all black, like don't you side with Candace O, and then like, aren't you a Trump supporter? Yeah, good job on them.
Come on. For the uncensored portion, I do have something to say about that, so sign up at libertyhangout.tv if you want to know what I'm about to say. But that's why I have security right there. Because of that happening, people calling me names, I ask for proof, they want to put their hands all over me.
Did she not edit this video to specifically show that man did not touch her in any way whatsoever and walked away from her because you put a microphone and kept tilting it towards him? Oh, come on. And they say black people got a victim complex. That's why I have security.
Thank goodness that his friends had a little bit more common sense than him, but...
For the audience watching at home, do you see what I'm talking about? How it's not direct and she didn't just say, well, you're a bad N-word. But it's like subtle. It's subtle. It's subtle. I hate this woman so much, yo.
I don't know.
So, voter ID, I really believe that you should have a voter ID to vote. There's no reason why anybody from not our country should be able to vote, so you need a voter ID to vote.
There's no reason why anybody not from our country should vote. I know he's speaking off the cuff, but There's a reason why she gave him the microphone. Like,
should have a voter ID to vote. There's no reason why anybody from not our country should be able to vote. So you need a voter ID to vote. And I believe that if you want to vote, you should have a voter ID.
so anybody without an ID doesn't have the right to vote. You might see a problem here, right? Because if it starts there, I wonder what else you would require for people to... Y'all make these shit so easy.
I'm not sure what else.
I mean, I know why they say it is.
Why is it?
They say that black people can't access the DMV and they can't get to the place to get an ID and they aren't smart enough to get on a computer.
Well, that's their fault. Why do we ask them? Like, they can better themselves.
If the Democrats truly cared, then they would have lower bus fares for they can go to the DMV.
Let's ask them. Here, ask them.
If the Democrats cared, they would have lower bus fares so people could make it to the DMV. They have that, you moron. Oh my God. This is the future of America right there. That's a thing. Are you so, here's the point. Are you so disconnected from your own, reality that you're not even aware of the things that you think that should be and that it's a democratic thing? These people are saying the thing out loud and then not understanding what they're saying. And now we have people in the government who are saying the thing out loud who don't, huh? Segment, man.
We're discussing is voter ID racist? Mm-hmm. Is requiring an ID, a form of ID, to vote in an election in America, is it racist?
To get an ID, you should already have an ID, right?
Well, Delta is mad at Georgia. MLB is pulling their games out of Georgia, the state of Georgia, because they just passed a law to require voter ID. And
that wasn't the only thing in the law. I need you guys to pay attention to that.
People are saying it's racist.
How are they going to mail you your voter's registration and your voter ticket if they don't have an ID?
They do that. Utility bills. You can prove where you live, and that's how they mail it to... You just cherry picking this one.
They said there shouldn't be an ID requirement.
Because, I mean...
They didn't say that either.
They mailed me my stuff, and I voted.
Were you able to get an ID?
Yeah. Okay. I have a Georgia license.
Okay. So you're from Georgia?
No, I'm from Florida.
Okay.
But I have a Georgia license.
Okay.
I live in Georgia now.
All right.
And I voted. They ain't seen me nothing with no problem. So it's not racist. Just to let y'all know.
All right, thank you. Georgia, I'm going to keep it sweet and simple, and I'm just going to get straight to the point. They passed a bill requiring ID to cast a vote. People are saying that's racist. Is it racist to require an ID to cast a vote in an election?
No, you need your ID for everything nowadays. Why would it be considered racist when we all have to carry one?
I don't believe so neither.
No.
For the same reasons, like you need some type of form of identification, and I think you would need some type of form of identification to vote. Why wouldn't you?
What if somebody said that they voted once or they vote was counted twice? And
how do you know who's voting and who's not if you don't have an ID? So no, I definitely don't believe it.
So not only is it not racist, but you think it should be required?
Absolutely.
I think it's fine. I don't think no harm's in it.
Yeah. Me neither. Just MLB, Delta Airlines, and Coca-Cola are all protesting, trying to threaten.
They protest everything nowadays.
There it is. There it is. They protest everything nowadays. Like, I don't want to take this person at face value because I understand that you're being goaded into this. But what are you saying right now? Black Lives, like, do you see where I'm going at with the rhetoric? Like, it's clear you swallowed a little bit of that, right? You don't even know who you're talking to. So you getting roped into a conversation, and I bet the next thing, everything's a problem now. They'll find issue with anything. It's gonna be one of them weird, like, are you serious? Do you not understand what country you live in?
The sand is too windy out here. Let's protest Tampa. No.
No kidding.
Okay. In like a month, we're going to come back to this woman and a whole thing about the mentality of black Americans.
Yeah. So why are they using the race card to try and not have election security, do you think?
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. That's a loaded question.
To be honest,
That's all I asked.
I think that is the new norm to say racist against, and it's kind of offensive because the ones who are using it is counteracting what it really is. That's not racism, but because black people endure it so much, now it's almost like they're trying to use reverse racism for everything.
Reverse racism for everything. Even if I gotta muddle through the waters of like trying to explain to people how what you just said is more detrimental than what you think is happening, oh my God, we're gonna be in for the long fight.
Everything is racism now.
Is it insulting that we're pulling issues away of actual racism and applying? It almost seems as though if everything's racist, then nothing can be racist.
That's not true either. That's 17 to 1865. That's 1700 to that's 1776 to 1965 saying that.
Exactly. It is very offensive that everything is used as racism, but what really is racism?
But what really is racism? Are you going to ask that question?
What's really racism? Oh, it's not racism. But what's not racism? Oh, it's racism. So
that makes zero sense. The word racist and discriminatory are being used interchangeably now because no matter which side you come from, the problem still seems to be black people are affected by it. That's why the word keeps getting you. Oh my Lord.
It's using it to their benefit, and it's very offensive.
Yeah. I mean, I'm as white as they get, but I agree with you with that. I agree with it.
Facts is facts. No matter the race, no matter the culture, no matter religion, facts are facts. Can't change that.
No matter the culture, no matter the religion, facts are facts. I don't think you meant to say religion in there. Because, oh my God, wait till you find out what they're doing to women.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Nope.
Georgia
She
passed
said
a
the
bill
line.
recently that requires voter ID. Have you heard about that?
A little bit.
A little bit. Have you heard about the companies that are just not having it? They do not like that at all.
I had.
So MLB, Coke, Delta Airlines, those are all examples. They are pulling business out of Georgia because they said requiring an ID to vote is racist.
They did not say that. They are more mad at the other I'm going to keep repeating myself over and over again. If you lead someone to water, they will drink. Like, if you lead a dehydrated person to water, they will drink. You are dehydrating these people with loaded questions, and then, of course, they're going to drink the Kool-Aid. Like, what other answer is it to that? Is the voter ID law racist? Well, no, in like plain terms, but if you had like an ounce of nuance beyond that, you would see why some people would open their mouth to say that.
Do you think it's racist to require proof of who you are to vote?
I don't. No.
Why not?
You need to verify who people are. So you need verification about who people are.
So not only do you believe that it's not racist, but we should have it.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. You're not white, right?
No.
Okay, you're not white. But you follow me and you said you love me.
Yes, I do.
I'm just putting that out there for everybody who wants to do whatever they want with that information.
Wow. Only white people like me. Therefore, if I find one random person on the street who's not white and they like me, I can't be racist. Like, there was a blacks for Trump. Like, come on! What?
427 gigabytes, but it says sell your data off. Is that good?
No. I don't know why you're selling it.
Because it says sell your data when I went to settings.
Sorry, guys. Give me a second. I'm going to end this segment because I have to do something really quickly.